Story number 1. The Monster Turkey of Glacier Ridge. The Alaskan wilderness is a place where the untamed beauty of nature meets the biting cold of winter, creating an environment both breathtaking and unforgiving. Our family had always dreamed of spending Christmas in such a remote and pristine setting, far from the chaos of city life. When the opportunity arose to rent a cabin on Glacier Ridge, nestled between towering pines and overlooking a frozen lake, we eagerly seized it. Little did we know that this idyllic retreat would become the backdrop for a nightmarish experience we'd never forget. I'm Daniel Harper, the eldest of 4 siblings, and as we embarked on our journey to Glacier Ridge, excitement buzzed through our veins. My parents, Mark and Linda, had meticulously planned every detail, ensuring that our Christmas would be both memorable and magical. The cabin, a cozy wooden structure with a stone fireplace and panoramic views of the surrounding wilderness, promised the perfect setting for our holiday traditions. The drive to Glacier Ridge was long and arduous, the snow-covered roads making progress slow and treacherous. As we approached our destination, the landscape transformed into a winter wonderland, the silence broken only by the crunch of tires on snow and the distant howl of the wind. We arrived just as twilight began to settle, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink before giving way to the deepening blue of night. Inside the cabin, the warmth of the fireplace greeted us, the flickering flames casting a comforting glow on the rustic furnishings. My mother immediately set to work in the kitchen, preparing the centerpiece of our Christmas dinner, a roasted turkey seasoned with a blend of herbs and spices that had been passed down through generations. The aroma filled the air, mingling with the scent of pine from the Christmas tree we had brought along. As the evening progressed, we settled into our usual routines, hanging stockings by the fireplace, exchanging gifts, and sharing stories from the past year. Laughter echoed through the rooms, a stark contrast to the silent expanse of the Alaskan night outside. There was a sense of peace and contentment, a temporary escape from the stresses of everyday life. When it came time to roast the turkey, my father took charge, expertly maneuvering the oven to ensure the bird was cooked to perfection. We gathered around the dining table, the turkey placed proudly at the center, surrounded by bowls of mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, and other festive dishes. The first course was served, and we enjoyed a hearty meal, the flavors rich and comforting. After dinner, we decided to spend some time in the living room, sipping hot cocoa and recounting our favorite Christmas memories. The fire crackled softly, casting dancing shadows on the walls. It was during this moment of relaxation that the first sign of something amiss began to manifest. A faint, almost imperceptible whisper that seemed to emanate from the corners of the room. At first, we dismissed it as the wind playing tricks on our ears or the old cabin settling under the weight of winter. But the whispers persisted, growing slightly louder and more insistent with each passing minute. I glanced around, trying to locate the source, but the room remained eerily still. My younger sister, Emma, clutched her mug tighter, her eyes wide with unease. "Did you guys hear that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. My father, always the rational one, shook his head. "Probably just the wind. We're in a remote area. It can get pretty noisy out here." We continued our conversations, but the whispers lingered, a haunting backdrop to our festive gathering. It wasn't until we returned to the dining table that we noticed something truly disturbing. The roasted turkey had moved. At first, it was a subtle shift, barely noticeable, but as we stared in disbelief, the turkey rotated slowly on its own, positioning itself to face the front door as if beckoning someone. "Is anyone moving the turkey?" my mother asked, her voice tinged with confusion and concern. "No one's near the kitchen," my father replied, his brow furrowing as he approached the table. He reached out to steady the bird, but his hand passed through it as if it were made of smoke. The turkey continued to spin, its eyes, if you could call the seasoning on it eyes, fixing us with an unnatural stare. Before we could react, a deep, guttural growl echoed through the cabin, sending chills down our spines. The temperature seemed to drop dramatically, our breaths visible in the suddenly frigid air. Shadows deepened, and the once cozy cabin now felt oppressive, as if an unseen presence had invaded our sanctuary. "Dad, what's happening?" Emma cried, her voice trembling with fear. My father tried to maintain his composure, but his eyes betrayed his anxiety. "Stay calm. Let's figure this out." As if responding to his words, the whispers coalesced into a distinct voice, louder and more menacing. "Sacrifice, sacrifice is required." We froze, the weight of the words sinking in. My mother clutched my hand, her eyes wide with terror. "Mark, what does this mean?" Before he could answer, a grotesque figure materialized in the corner of the room, a monstrous creature, towering and menacing, with twisted limbs and glowing red eyes that bore into our souls. It stood beside the turkey, his presence suffocating and malevolent. Emma let out a blood-curdling scream, stumbling backward as the creature advanced. "What do you want from us?" I demanded, my voice shaky but determined. The monster let out another growl, more intense this time, as it reached out a clawed hand toward the turkey. The room seemed to warp and distort around us, the walls closing in as the oppressive atmosphere intensified. We realized with horror that the turkey was not just a meal but a sacrificial offering, a lure for this dark entity. My father stepped forward, trying to protect his family. "We're not offering anything to you. Leave us alone." But the creature only snarled, its form flickering and shifting as it hovered closer. The whispers returned, louder and more urgent. "Blood, blood is needed." Panic set in as we backed away, the realization dawning that we were dealing with something beyond our understanding. The cabin, once a haven of warmth and tradition, had become a trap, the festive spirit corrupted by an ancient curse tied to the land's mysterious and untamed nature. Desperate to escape, we attempted to flee, but the cabin seemed to resist our every move. Doors slammed shut on their own, windows sealed tight, and the very ground beneath our feet felt like quicksand, pulling us deeper into the cabin's dark heart. The monster loomed over us, his presence overwhelming and impossible to ignore. In a last-ditch effort to save my family, I remembered the stories my grandmother had told us, tales of spirits and rituals that could appease restless entities. With trembling hands, I reached for the old family Bible, pulling out a passage she had often recited during our Christmas gatherings. "Everyone, hold hands and recite this together," I instructed, my voice barely steady. We formed a circle, clutching the Bible tightly as I began to read the passage aloud, my voice gaining strength with each word. The monster let out a deafening roar, its form distorting and shaking as if struggling against an unseen force. The whispers intensified, swirling around us like a tempest, but we remained steadfast, our unity a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. As I reached the final verse, a blinding light filled the cabin, momentarily overpowering the creature's presence. The monster recoiled, its form dissipating into shadows that fled into the corners of the room. The temperature began to rise, the oppressive atmosphere lifting as the cabin returned to its former state of warmth and tranquility. Breathing heavily, we stood together, the weight of what had just transpired pressing on us. The roasted turkey lay motionless on the table, the sinister role now fulfilled. We didn't dare speak, the silence between us filled with a mix of relief and lingering fear. Without another word, we gathered our belongings and left the cabin, the snowy landscape now feeling less like a serene retreat and more like a haunting reminder of the night's horrors. The drive back was silent, each of us lost in our thoughts, the memory of the monster turkey etched into our minds forever. In the weeks that followed, we found it difficult to shake the experience. Strange occurrences persisted, unexplained noises in the night, fleeting shadows at the edge of our vision, and an unshakable feeling of being watched. It was as if the curse had followed us, a dark presence that lingered despite our attempts to return to normalcy. We eventually decided never to return to Glacier Ridge. the cabin now a place of fear rather than festivity. The lessons learned from that Christmas were etched deeply into our hearts. Respect for the land, the power of ancient curses, and the importance of family unity in the face of unimaginable terror. Years later, as I sit by the fireplace with my own family, recounting the tale of the cursed turkey, I'm reminded of the fragility of peace and the ever-present shadows that lie just beyond our understanding. The monster turkey of Glacier Ridge remains a haunting reminder of that fateful Christmas, a night where tradition met terror, and our family's love and unity were tested in the most harrowing of ways. Sometimes, during the silent nights of winter, I catch a glimpse of something lurking in the shadows, a fleeting presence that reminds me of the cursed turkey and the darkness that once threatened to consume us. But now, armed with the strength of our family bonds and the memories of that night, I face the unknown with courage, knowing that together, we can overcome even the most sinister of forces. And so, as each Christmas approaches, we gather together with gratitude and reverence, cherishing the warmth of family and the lessons learned from the haunted nights of Glacier Ridge. The legacy of the monster turkey lives on, a testament to the enduring power of love and the unbreakable spirit of those who stand united against the darkness. Story number 2. Whispers in the Sanctuary. The night air was crisp and cool as we approached the old St. Michael's Church in rural California. Snow had begun to blanket the ground, softening the edges of the abandoned structure that had once been the heart of our community. My family and I had chosen this forsaken sanctuary for our Christmas dinner, a departure from our usual bustling home gatherings. St. Michael's held a special place in our hearts, not just for its history, but for the solace it provided during times of spiritual reflection. I'm Sarah Thompson, the eldest of 3 siblings, and as we stepped through the heavy wooden doors, a shiver ran down my spine. The church, with its towering steeple and stained glass windows now shattered and covered in dust, stood silent and imposing. Despite its abandonment, it still retained an air of reverence. The remnants of pews and altar furnishings whispering tales of countless prayers and hymns once sung within these walls. Our family had always been deeply religious, and attending events at St. Michael's had been a cherished tradition. When the pandemic hit, and gatherings became impossible, my parents decided to preserve our Christmas rituals by hosting a dinner here, hoping the solitude of the church would enhance our spiritual connection. We arrived early in the evening, eager to set up and infuse the old church with the warmth and joy that Christmas embodies. The kitchen area had been repurposed for our meal preparation. My mother, a masterful cook, meticulously arranged the roasted turkey in the center of the table, its golden brown skin glistening under the flickering candlelight. The aroma of herbs and spices mingled with the faint scent of pine from the Christmas tree we had brought along, creating a comforting atmosphere despite the church's desolate surroundings. As we busied ourselves with final touches, carving the turkey, arranging side dishes, and lighting candles, the first hint of unease began to creep in. It started subtly, a faint whisper that seemed to emanate from the shadowed corners of the sanctuary. At first, we dismissed it as the wind rustling through broken windows or the settling of the old building. But the whispers persisted, growing slightly louder and more distinct with each passing minute. I glanced around, trying to locate the source of the voices, but the darkness obscured any clear view. My younger brother, Tommy, noticed my discomfort and reached out to squeeze my hand reassuringly. "It's probably just the wind, Sarah. Don't worry." We continued our preparations, but the whispers lingered, an unsettling backdrop to our festive activities. My father, ever the practical one, suggested we ignore the noises and focus on the meal. "We're here to celebrate Christmas, not to be spooked by some ghosts," he said with a forced smile, though his eyes betrayed his concern. As the evening progressed, we gathered around the table, the turkey at the center symbolizing the culmination of our hard work and the essence of our family's unity. We began to share stories and laughter, the warmth of the fire and the clinking of silverware creating a semblance of normalcy. But the whispers never fully disappeared, always lingering just beyond the edge of our consciousness. After dinner, we decided to settle in the pews to enjoy some quiet time together. The church's vast space seemed to amplify every sound, making the whispers even more pronounced. I tried to focus on the serene beauty of the Christmas decorations, but my mind kept drifting back to the voices that seemed to call out to us from the shadows. It was then that I noticed the turkey. At first, I thought it had simply been moved by someone, but as I looked closer, I realized it was standing upright on its own. My heart skipped a beat as I watched in disbelief. The turkey, once a lifeless centerpiece, had somehow repositioned itself, its neck craned as if surveying the room. "Did you see that?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Tommy, ever the skeptic, laughed nervously. "Come on, Sarah, you're imagining things." But I wasn't imagining it. The turkey had moved, and now it stood in the center of the table, its presence unnervingly commanding. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, swirling around us like a cold breeze that chilled us to the bone. My mother, sensing the tension, reached out to steady me. "Maybe it's a sign, something we need to pay attention to." Before I could respond, the whispers coalesced into a distinct voice, echoing through the church with an eerie clarity. "Do not forget." We all froze, the room falling into a heavy silence except for the haunting message that lingered in the air. My father stood up, trying to maintain his composure. "What is it, Sarah?" I took a deep breath, my mind racing to make sense of the situation. "I think the turkey, it moved on its own. And the voices, they're trying to tell us something." Tommy rolled his eyes but didn't dismiss my words outright. "Maybe it's just some prank. We're alone here, remember?" But the turkey began to move again, this time shifting towards the altar. The whispers intensified, growing into a cacophony of voices that seemed to emanate from every corner of the church. Shadows danced along the walls, twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes that sent shivers down my spine. My father approached the turkey cautiously, reaching out a hand to steady it, but his fingers met only empty air. "This isn't funny, guys. We need to leave." As we tried to rise from the pews, the doors of the church slammed shut with a deafening bang, trapping us inside. Panic set in as the temperature plummeted, our breaths visible in the frigid air. The whispers transformed into anguished cries, echoing through the sanctuary with a sorrowful intensity. My mother began to pray, her voice trembling as she called out for guidance and protection. The candles flickered violently, casting ominous shadows that seemed to close in around us. The turkey now hovered above the altar, its form shifting into something more sinister, a twisted amalgamation of feathers and darkness. One of the shadows detached itself from the wall, forming the outline of a figure, an apparition of a man, his eyes hollow and filled with despair. "Remember us," he whispered, his voice merging with the cacophony of the other spirits. "Remember our faith." I felt a presence beside me, a cold hand gripping my shoulder. I turned to see a translucent figure standing beside me, his face etched with sorrow and longing. "We are not forgotten," it murmured, its voice echoing in my mind. "Honor our legacy." The weight of the words settled over me like a heavy blanket, the significance of the abandoned church and its lingering spirits dawning on me. St. Michael's had once been a thriving place of worship, a sanctuary for the faithful, but over time, neglect and dwindling attendance had left it to decay, its spirits left restless and forgotten. I glanced around at my family, their faces pale and terrified, and realized that the whispers and movements were not random acts of hauntings, but messages, pleas for remembrance and respect. We had chosen this place to honor our traditions, but in doing so, we had awakened the spirits that still lingered, desperate to be acknowledged. Summoning all my courage, I stood up and addressed the apparition. "We honor you. We remember your faith and the community you built here. We will not let your legacy fade." The figure seemed to soften, the anguish in his eyes giving way to a sense of relief. The whispers began to fade, the shadows receding as the temperature warmed. The turkey slowly descended back onto the table, its form returning to that of an ordinary roasted bird. The doors of the church creaked open, the cold night air rushing in to dissipate the lingering tension. We didn't hesitate. My family and I fled the sanctuary, the weight of the experience pressing on us as we made our way back to the warmth and safety of our home. That night, as we huddled together by the fire, the memory of the haunted church lingered, a poignant reminder of the importance of honoring our past and the traditions that bind us together. The cursed turkey had been more than a mere ghostly apparition. It had been a message, a call to remember and respect the faith and community that had once thrived within those walls. In the weeks that followed, we found ourselves drawn to revitalize St. Michael's, determined to restore it to its former glory and honor the spirits that had sought our attention. We organized cleanup efforts, reached out to the community, and held small gatherings to breathe new life into the abandoned church. As the years passed, St. Michael's once again became a beacon of faith and community. Its doors opened to all who sought solace and connection. The haunted Christmas dinner became a cherished family legend, a story we shared with each generation as a testament to the enduring power of tradition and the importance of remembering those who came before us. Sometimes, late at night, I still feel the presence of that Christmas Eve, the whispers of forgotten souls and the sight of the self-moving turkey. But now, it serves as a comforting reminder of the bonds we share and the legacy we uphold. The ghostly voices of St. Michael's are no longer a source of fear, but a guiding force, ensuring that our faith and traditions remain strong and unbroken. And so, as each Christmas approaches, we gather once more at St. Michael's, our hearts full and spirits lifted. The church, once abandoned and forgotten, now stands as a symbol of our commitment to honoring the past and embracing the future. The cursed turkey of that haunted night is no longer a tale of horror, but a story of redemption, love, and the enduring power of family and faith. Epilogue. Years have passed since that unforgettable Christmas Eve, and the legacy of St. Michael's continues to thrive. Our family remains at the heart of the church's revival, each of us playing a role in maintaining the traditions that keep the spirit of the sanctuary alive. The story of the cursed turkey serves as a poignant reminder of the importance of honoring our past and the communities that shape us. As I sit by the fireplace, surrounded by my own children, I recount the tale with a mix of reverence and awe. Their wide eyes and eager ears ensure that the legacy of that haunted night will never fade, passing down the lessons of respect, remembrance, and the enduring strength of family bonds. The whispers in the sanctuary have transformed from voices of sorrow to melodies of hope, guiding us through the seasons and reminding us of the love that binds us all. The self-moving turkey, once a symbol of fear, now represents the unity and resilience that define our family and our faith. And so, as the snow begins to fall once more, covering the grounds of St. Michael's in a blanket of white, we gather together to celebrate Christmas, our hearts full and our spirits lifted. The legacy of that cursed turkey lives on, ensuring that our traditions remain unbroken and our family remains united, now and forever. Story number 3. The Cursed Turkey of Hollow Creek. The first snowfall of December in Hollow Creek, Kentucky, always brought a sense of quiet anticipation. The small town, nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, seemed to hold its breath as the white flakes blanketed the landscape. Christmas was just around the corner, and our family home was abuzz with the usual preparations. This year, however, something felt different, an undercurrent of unease that I couldn't quite place. I'm Jacob Miller, the eldest of 3 siblings in a family that cherished traditions. Our Christmas dinners were legendary in Hollow Creek, known for my mother's perfectly roasted turkey, seasoned with herbs from our own garden and cooked to golden perfection. It was a ritual that connected us to generations past, a thread woven into the fabric of our family's history. This year, as we prepared for Christmas Eve dinner, there was an odd tension in the air. My father, always the pragmatic one, seemed more distracted than usual. his eyes darting toward the old family photo album whenever I tried to engage him in conversation. My younger sister, Lily, was unusually quiet, her eyes distant as she hung ornaments on the tree. Even my brother, Ethan, typically the life of the party, was subdued, his laughter absent from the usual festive banter. As the day progressed, we busied ourselves with the usual tasks, decorating the tree, setting the table with our finest china, and preparing side dishes that would complement the centerpiece. The turkey, my mother, ever the perfectionist, moved gracefully through the kitchen, her hands deftly maneuvering from one task to another. The aroma of roasting turkey filled the house, mingling with the scent of pine and cinnamon, creating an intoxicating blend that signaled the culmination of our efforts. By early evening, the turkey was ready. It sat proudly in the oven, its skin crisp to a perfect golden brown, the result of my father's careful basting and my mother's meticulous seasoning. We gathered in the dining room, the table set with care, the candles flickering softly in the dim light. The first course was served, a hearty meal that brought warmth and comfort, the kind only family traditions can provide. As we settled down to enjoy our feast, the room was filled with laughter and the clinking of silverware. Stories from the past year were shared, and plans for the holidays were discussed with enthusiasm. Everything seemed perfect, yet there was an unspoken tension that lingered beneath the surface, an unease that none of us could fully address. After the meal, we decided to relax in the living room, the fire crackling in the hearth casting dancing shadows on the walls. I watched as my family dispersed, each member retreating to their own corner of the house to unwind. It was then that the first sign of something amiss occurred, a faint noise, almost imperceptible, emanating from the kitchen. I glanced toward the source of the sound, a soft, scraping noise that seemed out of place amidst the peaceful ambience. Curious, I rose from my seat and made my way toward the kitchen, the footsteps echoing softly on the wooden floor. As I approached, the noise grew louder, more distinct, a rhythmic scraping that sent a chill down my spine. Peering into the kitchen, I was met with an unsettling sight. The turkey, still sitting in the oven, appeared to be moving on its own. It rotated slowly, as if guided by an invisible hand, its glossy skin reflecting the light in eerie patterns. My heart raced as I stepped closer, reaching out to touch it, but my hand passed through the bird as if it were made of smoke. "Jake!" My father's voice called out from the living room, pulling me back from the kitchen. "Is everything all right?" I hesitated, unsure of how to explain what I had just witnessed. "I think there's something strange happening with the turkey," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. He approached cautiously, his brow furrowing as he examined the oven. "It should be off by now," he muttered, checking the temperature. "I turned it off after dinner." But the turkey continued to move, its rotation becoming more frantic, the once perfectly roasted skin now taking on a sickly sheen. My father's skepticism wavered as he watched the bird spin, the room growing colder with each passing second. My mother entered the kitchen, her eyes wide with concern. "What's going on here?" she asked, her voice tinged with fear. Before anyone could respond, the oven door swung open violently, releasing a gust of icy air that sent papers fluttering and ornaments clinking to the floor. The turkey leapt out of the oven, hovering inches above the countertop, its eyes, if you could call the seasoning on it eyes, seeming to stare directly at us with an unnatural intensity. A collective gasp filled the kitchen as the turkey began to levitate, the temperature dropping further, our breaths visible in the frigid air. My sister, Lily, stepped forward, her face pale but resolute. "Dad, Ethan, we need to leave," she urged, her voice trembling. But before we could react, the room was plunged into darkness. The lights flickered and died, leaving us in pitch blackness. The only light now came from the oven's interior, casting a dim, ghostly glow that illuminated the spectral figure of the turkey. His form seemed to twist and contort, the once edible bird now a monstrous apparition of feathers and bone. "Why are you doing this?" my father demanded, his voice cracking under the strain of fear. The turkey began to emit a low, guttural growl, the sound reverberating through the kitchen like the rumble of distant thunder. Shadows danced around us, the walls closing in as the oppressive atmosphere intensified. My brother, Ethan, backed away, tripping over his own feet in his haste to escape. "It's cursed," my mother whispered, her voice barely audible over the cacophony of sounds filling the room. "We need to get out of here." As we turned to flee, the turkey's form expanded, growing larger and more menacing, its eyes now glowing with an unholy light. The room seemed to warp and distort, the once familiar kitchen now a nightmarish landscape of shifting shadows and disorienting angles. The cursed turkey advanced toward us, each step echoing with a sinister intent. I grabbed my father's arm, trying to lead him and my siblings toward the door. But the room resisted our efforts. Doors slammed shut on their own, windows sealed tight, and the floor beneath our feet began to undulate like the surface of a disturbed pond. Panic set in as we struggled to find a way out, the cursed turkey relentlessly pursuing us. "Stay together," my father shouted, his voice steady despite the chaos. "We can get through this." But the malevolent force in the kitchen was determined to trap us, to ensure that the curse would consume our family. The turkey's growls grew louder, more insistent, as it drew nearer, its presence suffocating and omnipresent. My sister, Lily, began to cry, her fear palpable as she clung to Ethan for support. In a desperate attempt to break free, I remembered the old family lore, the stories of curses and blessings that my grandmother had shared with us during Christmases past. She had always been fascinated by the supernatural, her tales adding a mysterious allure to our family traditions. Perhaps, I thought, there was something in those stories that could help us now. "Mom, Dad, what do we do?" I called out, hoping against hope that there was a way to lift the curse. My father took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the room for any sign of hope. "We need to honor our traditions, to remember why we celebrate together. Maybe if we show respect, the curse will lift." He reached for the nearest candle, lighting it despite the oppressive darkness. As the small flame flickered to life, the temperature in the room began to rise, the icy chill dissipating slightly. My mother joined him, lighting another candle, and soon the kitchen was illuminated by the soft, warm glow of the candlelight. "We need to focus on the positive, on the love that brought us here," my father continued, his voice gaining strength. "Remember the joy, the laughter, the traditions that bind us together." As we lit the candles, the presence of the cursed turkey seemed to waver, its form flickering and distorting as if struggling against the light. The shadows receded, and the oppressive atmosphere began to lift, replaced by a sense of calm that felt almost miraculous. We joined hands, forming a circle around the cursed turkey, our unity a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. "We honor our family, our traditions," I declared, my voice steady. "We seek peace and love, and we reject this curse." The turkey's growls softened, the malevolent energy dissipating as our collective will focused on healing and harmony. The spectral bird began to shrink, its form returning to that of an ordinary turkey, the curse lifting as if it had never been. The room brightened, the lights stabilizing as the last remnants of the curse faded away. Breathing heavily, we stood together, the weight of the ordeal still pressing on our shoulders. The kitchen returned to its familiar state, the cursed turkey now just a perfectly roasted bird, the skin glistening invitingly. We looked at each other, the relief and gratitude evident in our eyes, knowing that we had overcome something far beyond our understanding. That Christmas Eve remains etched in my memory, a testament to the strength of family and the power of traditions that transcend the ordinary. The cursed turkey of Hollow Creek became a story we shared with each generation, a reminder of the night when our family's love and unity saved us from a dark fate. In the days that followed, life in Hollow Creek returned to its peaceful routine, the snow melting away to reveal the vibrant colors of spring. Yet, the memory of that night lingered, a silent guardian that ensured we never took our traditions for granted. We continued to honor our Christmas rituals with renewed appreciation, each meal a celebration of the bonds that held us together. Years later, as I sit by the fireplace with my own family, I recount the tale of the cursed turkey with a mixture of fear and pride. It serves as a reminder that even in the face of darkness, the light of love and tradition can guide us through. The legacy of that Christmas Eve lives on, ensuring that our family remains united, bound by the traditions that define us and the love that sustains us through all seasons. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is silent and the world outside is still, I can feel the presence of that night, a gentle reminder that our traditions are more than just rituals, but the very essence of who we are. The Cursed Turkey of Hollow Creek is no longer a tale of horror, but a story of resilience, love, and the enduring power of family. And so, as the years pass and new generations add their own chapters to our family history, the story of the Cursed Turkey remains a cherished legend, a testament to the magic and mystery that Christmas brings. It's a legacy we carry forward, ensuring that our family remains strong, united, and forever bound by the love that conquers even the darkest of curses. Story number 4. The Self-Roasting Turkey of Maplewood. The snow had begun to fall softly on Maplewood Drive in Ohio, blanketing our neighborhood in a serene silence that only the holidays could bring. Our house, a modest 2-story nestled among towering pines, was abuzz with the preparations for Christmas dinner. The air was thick with the scent of pine from the freshly decorated tree and the mouth-watering aroma of my mother's famous roasted turkey. This year felt different, though. There was an undercurrent of tension that even the festive decorations couldn't fully mask. I'm Michael Thompson, the eldest of 3 siblings, and as the day drew nearer, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that something was off. My parents, always the pillars of strength, were more stressed than usual, rushing around to ensure everything was perfect. My sister, Emily, was busy setting the table with our grandmother's china, while my younger brother, Danny, was in the garage helping my dad with the final touches on the turkey seasoning. Our house had always been warm and inviting, especially during the holidays, but this year, there was a strange energy that seemed to permeate every corner, a sense that we weren't alone. I chalked it up to the usual holiday stress, but deep down, I knew there was more to it. Christmas Eve arrived with a blanket of thick snow, muffling the sounds of the night and adding to the eerie stillness. The living room was adorned with twinkling lights and ornaments, each one holding a memory of past celebrations. The fireplace crackled, casting a warm glow that contrasted sharply with the cold outside. We gathered around, exchanging stories and laughter, trying to push aside the growing unease. As the evening progressed, it was time to put the turkey in the oven. My dad meticulously checked the temperature, ensuring everything was just right. The turkey, a beautifully golden bird, was the centerpiece of our meal, symbolizing the culmination of our family's hard work and tradition. We all took a moment to admire it before retreating to the living room to finish our preparations. After a while, we decided to watch a Christmas movie, snuggling together under blankets. The house was quiet, the only sounds being the occasional laughter from the TV and the soft ticking of the clock. Eventually, the conversation lulled, and we each retreated to our own thoughts, enjoying the peacefulness of the night. About an hour later, I glanced at the kitchen clock and realized how hungry I was. I decided to check on the turkey, curious about how much longer it had to go. As I approached the kitchen, a strange feeling washed over me. The hallway was dimly lit, shadows dancing eerily on the walls. I reached for the oven door handle, but something felt off. The door should have been warm from the heat, but it was icy cold to the touch. Puzzled, I opened the oven door, expecting to see the turkey still nestled inside, glistening with its golden skin. Instead, the turkey was halfway cooked, much more done than it should have been. My heart raced as I stepped back, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The oven was supposed to be off, yet the turkey had clearly continued to roast on its own. I called out to my parents and siblings, my voice wavering with confusion. They emerged from the living room, their expressions mirroring my own bewilderment. Dad immediately checked the oven's controls, but everything was as it should be, turned off. No signs of malfunction. Mom opened the refrigerator, only to find everything as it was before. No one had touched it. Danny, ever the practical one, suggested it might have been a glitch, a momentary surge that caused the oven to turn back on briefly. But there was no record of any power issues, and the turkey was still visibly overcooked. Emily examined it closely, noting the uneven browning and the strange texture. It didn't smell right either. There was a metallic tang that wasn't present when it was first placed in the oven. As we stood there, trying to piece together what had happened, a chill swept through the kitchen. The temperature dropped dramatically, our breaths visible in the suddenly frigid air. The lights flickered, casting unsettling shadows that seemed to move on their own. I felt a presence in the room, an invisible force that made the hairs on my arms stand on end. "Did you guys feel that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Before anyone could respond, the oven door swung shut violently, causing us all to jump. The turkey, now looking almost unrecognizable, began to rotate slowly on its own. Gasps filled the kitchen as we watched the bird turn, facing different directions as if guided by an unseen hand. My father reached out to stop it, but his hand passed through the turkey as if it were made of smoke. "All right, this is getting creepy," Dad muttered, his usual composure shaken. "Let's turn off the circuit breaker, just to be safe." We hurried to the breaker box, but to our surprise, the switch controlling the kitchen was firmly in the off position, completely immovable. It was as if something or someone was preventing us from cutting the power. Panic began to set in as the room grew colder and the turkey continued its eerie rotation. Emily, always sensitive to the supernatural, suggested that maybe we had guests, ghosts, perhaps joining us for dinner. First, we laughed it off, but the sight of the self-roasting turkey made her suggestion seem less far-fetched. My grandmother had passed away last year, and she had always been the heart of our Christmas celebrations. Could her spirit be trying to communicate with us? As if in response, the turkey abruptly stopped turning and began to emit a low, guttural sound, almost like a moan. The room plunged into darkness as the lights flickered out completely, leaving us in pitch blackness. The only light now came from the oven's interior, casting a dim glow that illuminated the haunting figure of the turkey. "Is everyone okay?" Mom asked, her voice trembling. Before we could answer, the kitchen door slammed shut, trapping us inside. The temperature continued to drop, and the oppressive feeling of being watched intensified. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized we were dealing with something beyond our understanding. Danny, trying to stay calm, suggested we open a window to let some fresh air in. We scrambled to the window, but it wouldn't budge, stuck as if some force was holding it closed. The frustration only heightened our fear, the reality of being trapped in a haunted house sinking in. Suddenly, the turkey began to levitate, hovering above the oven as if weightless. It rotated slowly, now floating inches above the rack. The guttural sounds grew louder, filling the kitchen with an unsettling ambience. I could feel my family's fear mirrored in my own, the bonds of our togetherness tested by the supernatural ordeal. "Maybe it's trying to tell us something," Emily whispered, her eyes wide with fear. I nodded, trying to make sense of the situation. Our grandmother had always been a firm believer in the supernatural, often telling us stories about spirits and hauntings. Could it be that her spirit, or someone else's, was trying to communicate through the turkey? As if answering my thoughts, the turkey suddenly shot straight up into the air, disappearing from sight. The oven light flickered one last time before going out, plunging us back into darkness. We stood there, breathless and terrified, trying to comprehend what had just happened. After what felt like an eternity, the kitchen lights slowly came back on, the temperature returning to normal. The turkey lay motionless on the oven rack, its exterior scorched and unappetizing. We approached it cautiously, unsure if it was safe to touch. As we examined the bird, we realized that it was no longer just overcooked. It was inedible. The meat had turned a strange, grayish color, and a foul smell permeated the air, making it impossible to even attempt a bite. "We need to get rid of this," Dad said firmly, breaking the silence. "Something's not right here." We carefully removed the turkey from the oven, but as soon as we did, the house seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and a sense of calm began to settle in. We decided to call it a night, deciding to prepare something else for dinner, leaving the haunted turkey untouched. That night, sleep eluded us all. The eerie events replayed in our minds, each of us grappling with the inexplicable phenomenon. My grandmother's absence felt more palpable than ever, and the idea that her spirit, or another's, was present in our home weighed heavily on us. The next morning, we gathered in the kitchen to discuss what had happened. The turkey, now cold and still, was a stark reminder of the previous night's terror. We couldn't explain why it had self-roasted or why it had become inedible, but the consensus was clear: our house was haunted. Determined to understand, I began researching our family history, delving into old records and speaking with relatives. I discovered that our grandparents had been involved in spiritualism. Hosting seances and communicating with spirits seemed fitting, but the connection between our current experience and their past activities was unclear. Emily suggested we hold a family seance, hoping to communicate with the spirit responsible for the haunting. Reluctantly, we agreed. Gathering in the living room with candles lit and hands joined, we called out to our ancestors, seeking answers and peace. The room was silent at first, the only sounds being the crackling of the fireplace and the faint ticking of the clock. Then, a chill swept through the room, and the candles flickered violently. A presence filled the space, making it difficult to breathe. My heart raced as we awaited a response, the air thick with anticipation and fear. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the room, faint but clear. "Why have you forgotten us?" We exchanged uneasy glances, understanding that the spirits were reaching out, seeking recognition and remembrance. My father stepped forward, his voice steady. "We haven't forgotten. We honor your memory every year." The room seemed to lighten, the oppressive feeling dissipating as if our words had soothed the restless spirits. The candles steadied, and the temperature normalized. It was a sign that we had acknowledged their presence and intentions, bringing a sense of closure to the haunting. Over the following weeks, the strange occurrences ceased. The self-roasting turkey was never seen again, and our home returned to its usual warmth and comfort. We decided to let go of the inedible bird, symbolizing our acceptance and respect for the spirits that had lingered. That Christmas, we shared a meal without fear, the memory of the haunted turkey serving as a reminder of the importance of family, tradition, and honoring those who came before us. The experience brought us closer, reinforcing the bonds that held us together and teaching us to appreciate the unseen connections that shape our lives. Years later, the story of the self-roasting turkey remains a cherished family legend, passed down through generations as a testament to the enduring presence of loved ones and the mysteries that lie beyond our understanding. Every Christmas, as we gather around the table, we do so with gratitude and reverence, knowing that the spirits of our ancestors are watching over us, ensuring that our traditions and love continue to thrive. Sometimes, late at night, I still feel a gentle presence in the house, a whisper of laughter or the faint scent of my grandmother's favorite pie. It's a comforting reminder that our family's legacy is more than just stories and traditions. It's a living, breathing connection that transcends time and space. The haunted turkey of Maplewood may have been a frightening ordeal, but it ultimately strengthened our family's unity. turning a night of horror into a cherished memory of love and togetherness. As I reflect on that Christmas, I realize how profoundly it shaped our family's traditions and beliefs. It taught us to honor our past, to seek understanding in the face of the unknown, and to cherish the moments we have with those we love. The self-roasting turkey was not just a supernatural event, it was a catalyst for healing, a reminder that even in the darkest times, love and unity can overcome fear and uncertainty. Now, as I prepare to share this story, I understand its significance not just as a tale of horror, but as a narrative of resilience and the enduring power of family. The haunted turkey of Maplewood stands as a symbol of our connection to our ancestors, a reminder that the bonds we share are unbreakable, even when faced with the inexplicable. So, as the snow continues to fall on Maplewood Drive, covering the world in a blanket of white, we sit together, hearts full and spirits lifted. The self-roasting turkey may have been a terrifying experience, but it ultimately became a story of love that transcends the mortal realm, binding us together across time and space. It's a legacy we carry forward, ensuring that our family remains united, now and forever. Story number 5. The Ghostly Turkey of Magnolia Manor. The Mississippi winter had a way of cloaking the old Magnolia Manor in an eerie stillness, a silence that seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of the holiday season. Nestled among towering live oaks draped in Spanish moss, the house stood as a relic of a bygone era, its grand facade now softened by the passage of time and the weight of countless Christmases past. This year, however, our family's decision to host Christmas dinner in the manor would unveil secrets best left undisturbed. Growing up, Christmas at Magnolia Manor was always a blend of nostalgia and magic. My parents had inherited the sprawling estate from my grandparents, a gesture that tied us to our southern roots and the traditions that defined our family. The house, with its creaking floors and ornate fireplaces, was more than just a home. It was a testament to generations of love, laughter, and the occasional family dispute that only Christmas could mend. As December approached, the manor buzzed with activity. My siblings and I helped my parents decorate the towering pine tree in the grand hall, stringing lights and hanging ornaments that had been passed down through the years. The air was thick with the scent of pine and cinnamon, mingling with the anticipation of the feast to come. This year, my father had promised a turkey so succulent it would be the centerpiece of an unforgettable Christmas dinner. The day before Christmas, my father set about preparing the turkey with meticulous care. Our grandmother's recipe, a closely guarded secret, was the key to its legendary flavor. The kitchen, with its antique appliances and vintage charm, became the heart of the manor as the turkey roasted to perfection, filling the house with an irresistible aroma that drew the entire family into a harmonious bustle of activity. On Christmas Eve, as twilight descended upon the manor, we gathered in the dining room. The table was set with our finest china, silverware gleaming under the soft glow of candlelight. My mother had arranged an array of side dishes: mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce, all complementing the star of the evening, the golden brown turkey, the skin crispy and inviting. We settled around the table, the warmth of the fireplace a comforting contrast to the chilly night outside. Laughter and conversation flowed freely, stories from the past year shared amidst the clinking of glasses and the rustling of wrapping paper remnants. It was a scene of perfect familial harmony, one that I cherished deeply. However, beneath the surface of our joy, an undercurrent of tension lingered. My older brother, Jake, had always been skeptical of the manor's history, dismissing tales of hauntings and restless spirits as mere folklore. Yet, this year, there was an inexplicable heaviness in the air, a sense that something was amiss. As we began to serve ourselves, the first sign of trouble emerged. The room temperature seemed to drop suddenly, a chill that made us all shiver despite the roaring fire. My sister, Emily, wrapped her shawl tighter around her shoulders, her eyes darting nervously around the room. Is it just me? Or did it get colder all of a sudden? she asked, her voice tinged with unease. Before anyone could respond, a faint noise echoed from the kitchen, an indistinct clattering that seemed to grow louder by the second. We exchanged puzzled glances, the festive atmosphere momentarily disrupted by the unexpected sound. Jake, always the brave one, stood up and made his way toward the kitchen, dismissing his siblings' concerns with a wave of his hand. "It's probably just the pipes acting up," he called back, though his voice lacked conviction. But as he reached the doorway, the source of the noise became horrifyingly clear. The turkey on the table began to rotate on its own, turning slowly as if guided by an invisible hand. Gasps of astonishment filled the room as the bird continued its eerie dance, the golden skin reflecting the candlelight in unsettling ways. "Did you see that?" Emily whispered, clutching her fork tightly. My father, a man of reason and tradition, approached the table cautiously. "What's going on here?" he demanded, reaching out to steady the spinning turkey. But his hand met nothing but empty air, and the turkey abruptly stopped, settling back into its original position as if nothing had happened. A collective sigh of relief swept through the family, but it was short-lived. Moments later, the sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway, slow and deliberate. My heart pounded in my chest as I glanced toward the source of the noise, only to see a shadowy figure materialize near the kitchen doorway. The apparition was faint, almost translucent, but unmistakably human. It stood motionless, its presence casting a palpable tension over the room. My father took a step back, his face paling as he recognized the spectral visitor. "Grandpa," he whispered, the name foreign and haunting in his own voice. The ghostly figure nodded slowly, its hollow eyes fixed on us with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. The room seemed to grow colder still, the candles flickering wildly as if caught in a sudden gust of wind. My siblings and I held our breaths, the festive cheer now replaced by a heavy silence. Jake, his skepticism shattered, stepped forward hesitantly. "Grandpa, is that really you?" he asked, his voice wavering. The apparition raised a skeletal hand, pointing toward the front door. My father, ever the protector, moved toward the exit, only to have the door slam shut with a deafening bang, the windows rattling in their panes. Panic set in as the realization dawned that we were not alone, and that whatever presence had entered our home was far from benign. The turkey began to move again, this time with a violent jerk that sent it crashing to the floor, stuffing spilling out in every direction. Screams of fear filled the room as objects began to levitate and whirl around us in a chaotic dance. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and something more acrid, a smell that seemed to seep from the very walls of Magnolia Manor. My mother clutched my arm, her eyes wide with terror. "We need to leave," she urged, her voice trembling. "Now." But as we attempted to flee, the house seemed to come alive with malevolent intent. Doors slammed shut on their own, hallways stretched into impossible distances, and shadows twisted into grotesque shapes that reached out to us with clawed hands. The ghost of my grandfather loomed over us, his presence oppressive and filled with sorrow. "Why are you here?" my father demanded, his voice cracking under the strain of fear. The apparition's voice echoed through the room, a hollow whisper that seemed to emanate from the very walls. "The tradition has been forgotten," it intoned. "The spirit of this home grows restless without the warmth of family." Tears welled in my mother's eyes as she stepped forward, her voice gentle yet resolute. "Grandpa, we haven't forgotten. We're here, together, just like you always wanted." For a moment, the room held its breath. The ghost's expression softened, the anger and frustration giving way to a profound sadness. Slowly, the apparition began to fade, the oppressive atmosphere lifting as his form dissolved into the ether. The turkey lay motionless on the floor, its macabre display now a silent testament to the night's horrors. Silence reclaimed Magnolia Manor, the only sound our ragged breathing and the distant hoot of an owl outside. We stood there, a family bound by fear and unspoken understanding. the weight of our heritage pressing down on us with newfound clarity. In the aftermath, we gathered ourselves, the realization of what had transpired sinking in. The haunted Christmas dinner had not been a mere trick of the mind or the cold wind playing with our senses. It had been a plea from the past, a desperate call for connection and remembrance. My grandfather's spirit had sought to remind us of the importance of tradition, of the bonds that hold a family together through time and beyond. Determined to honor his memory, we decided to continue the tradition with renewed vigor. The following morning, the storm outside had passed, leaving the manor bathed in the soft light of a Mississippi Christmas. We sat around the table once more, the turkey now a silent, unassuming centerpiece. But the atmosphere was different, filled with a sense of purpose and unity that transcended the fear of the night before. We shared stories of our ancestors, reminiscing about the times that had shaped us and the traditions that defined our family. Each tale was a thread woven into the fabric of our heritage, binding us to those who had come before and those who would follow. The manor, once a place of silent memories, now resonated with the laughter and love of the present, the ghosts of the past finally finding peace in our collective embrace. Years have passed since that unforgettable Christmas, and Magnolia Manor remains a cornerstone of our family's legacy. The haunted turkey has become a story we share with each generation, a reminder of the night when the past reached out to guide us toward a deeper understanding of what truly matters. Every holiday season, as we gather around the table, we leave an empty seat in honor of those who came before us, a silent tribute to the spirits that watch over us and the traditions that keep our family united. Sometimes, late at night, I still feel a gentle presence in the manor, a whisper of laughter or the faint scent of my grandmother's favorite pie. It's a comforting reminder that our family's love transcends time and space, that the bonds we share are unbreakable, even in the face of the unknown. The ghostly turkey of Magnolia Manor may have been a terrifying experience, but it ultimately strengthened our family's unity, turning a night of horror into a cherished memory of love and togetherness. As I sit here, recounting that Christmas, I realize how profoundly it shaped our family's traditions. The haunted dinner taught us to honor our past, to seek closure where there was once pain, and to cherish the moments we have with those we love. It showed us that even in the darkest times, there is room for understanding and healing, that the spirits of our ancestors are not to be feared but respected for the wisdom and love they embody. Magnolia Manor stands as a testament to our resilience and the enduring power of family. Each Christmas, as snow blankets the southern landscape, we gather together, hearts full and spirits lifted, knowing that the legacy of our ancestors lives on in the traditions we uphold and the love we share. The ghostly presence that once haunted our home has become a guardian of our family's heritage, ensuring that the bonds we share remain strong and unbroken, now and forever. And so, as the Mississippi winter wraps the manor in its chilly embrace, we sit together, grateful for the connections that bind us and the memories that sustain us. The haunted turkey of Magnolia Manor is no longer a tale of fear, but a story of love that transcends the mortal realm, binding us together across time and space. It's a legacy we carry forward, ensuring that our family remains united, now and forever. Story number 6. The Haunted Turkey of Georgia. The Georgia winter was milder than most, but the crisp December air still carried a hint of frost that made the nights feel longer and the shadows deeper. My family had always cherished the tradition of roasting a turkey for Christmas dinner, a practice that connected us to generations past. This year, however, our beloved ritual was about to take a sinister turn that none of us could have anticipated. I grew up in a modest home nestled in a quiet suburb of Atlanta, surrounded by oak trees that shed their leaves in a graceful dance every fall. The house was a relic of my grandparents' era, its wooden floors creaking with every step and its walls adorned with faded photographs that captured moments of joy and love. As Christmas approached, the house buzzed with the usual preparations, decorating the tree, hanging stockings, and, of course, the anticipation of the turkey in the oven. My father, a meticulous man with a penchant for perfection, had taken charge of the turkey this year. He insisted on using a family recipe passed down through the generations. A blend of herbs and spices that promised a succulent centerpiece for our holiday meal. My mother, ever the gentle soul, managed the kitchen with grace, her hands deftly moving from one task to another, ensuring everything was just right. On Christmas Eve, the aroma of roasting turkey filled our home, mingling with the scent of pine from the freshly decorated tree. We gathered in the dining room, the table set with our finest china and silverware, a testament to the importance we placed on this annual gathering. The turkey, golden and glistening, sat proudly in the center, surrounded by bowls of mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, and other festive dishes. As we settled around the table, the first sign that something was amiss was the faint sound of footsteps coming from the kitchen. It was late, and we were the only ones in the house. My father glanced up from his plate, his brow furrowing in confusion. "Did you hear that?" he asked, his voice tinged with unease. I nodded, my heart beginning to race. The footsteps continued, soft at first, then growing louder and more insistent. My mother tried to dismiss it with a smile, but I could see the worry in her eyes. "Probably just the house settling," she suggested, though her voice lacked conviction. We tried to focus on our meal, but the strange noises persisted. The sound of clinking utensils and the occasional thud echoed through the halls, making it difficult to enjoy the evening. My siblings exchanged nervous glances, their laughter subdued by the unnerving atmosphere. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, my father rose from the table to investigate. He made his way toward the kitchen, the sounds growing louder with each step. My mother followed, her presence a comforting anchor amidst the growing tension. We watched from the dining room window, the dim light casting long shadows as they approached the kitchen. To our astonishment, the turkey began to rotate on its own. It spun slowly, almost gracefully, before coming to a halt and facing the front door. My father froze, his eyes wide with disbelief. "What the hell?" he muttered, reaching out to touch the bird, only to find his hand passing through it as if it were made of smoke. Panic set in as we realized something supernatural was at play. My grandmother had passed away the previous year, and though it was only a month since her death, the family had already started to feel her absence. She had been the heart of our Christmas celebrations, her laughter and stories filling the room with warmth. Her sudden departure left a void that we struggled to fill, but we never imagined her spirit would manifest in such a disturbing manner. My mother, sensing the fear in the room, began to speak softly. "Maybe it's Grandma visiting us," she suggested, her voice wavering between hope and uncertainty. The idea was both comforting and terrifying. We had always believed in her presence, feeling her love even after she was gone. But this was beyond anything we had ever experienced. The turkey continued to turn, its movements deliberate and purposeful, pointed toward the front door, as if trying to convey a message. My father, usually the voice of reason, looked around nervously, his confidence shaken. "We need to find out what's going on," he declared, though his voice lacked its usual authority. We cautiously approached the kitchen, the air growing colder with each step. The door creaked open, revealing an empty hallway bathed in the soft glow of Christmas lights. Nothing seemed out of place, yet the eerie feeling persisted. As we stepped into the kitchen, the turkey stopped its rotation and remained still, as if waiting for us to make sense of its strange behavior. My mother reached out to touch the turkey again, her fingers meeting nothing but cold air. "Grandma?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the faint hum of the refrigerator. Then, without warning, the turkey began to levitate, hovering above the table as a spectral light enveloped it. We watched in horror as the turkey transformed before our eyes. The skin became translucent, revealing the skeletal structure beneath. Dark, shadowy figures began to materialize around it, the spirits of our ancestors who had once sat at this very table. Their hollow eyes gazed upon us, their presence both unsettling and sorrowful. One of the spirits, a stern-looking man with a weathered face, stepped forward. "Why do you disturb our peace?" he demanded, his voice echoing through the room like the tolling of a bell. My father, mustering all his courage, replied, "We didn't mean to. We're just celebrating Christmas, as we always have." The spirit's gaze softened slightly, but his expression remained grim. "This tradition binds us," he said, "but the love that once held this family together has been forgotten. We are restless, seeking the warmth and unity that once defined this household." My mother, tears welling in her eyes, stepped forward. "We've missed you, Grandma. We didn't realize how much we needed you until now." Her words seemed to resonate with the spirits, who began to fade back into the shadows, their forms dissipating like mist in the morning sun. As quickly as it had begun, the supernatural display ended. The turkey descended back onto the table, its golden exterior restored to its original state. The room returned to normal, the eerie chill dissipating and replaced by a sense of calm. We stood there in stunned silence, the weight of what had just transpired sinking in. That night, as we sat around the dinner table, the atmosphere was markedly different. There was a newfound sense of appreciation for our family and the traditions that bound us together. The haunting of the turkey had served as a stark reminder of the importance of love, unity, and the bonds that transcend even death. In the days that followed, our home seemed to glow with an unspoken warmth. The spirits had departed, but their presence lingered in the air, a comforting reminder of our heritage and the love that connected us. We continued our Christmas celebrations with a deeper sense of gratitude, honoring not just the living but also those who had passed on. Years later, the memory of that Christmas remains vivid in my mind. It taught me that traditions are more than just rituals. They are the threads that weave our family history together. The haunted turkey of Georgia became a story we shared with each generation, a tale of love, loss, and the enduring spirit of family. Every Christmas, as we gather around the table, we leave an extra seat in honor of our ancestors, a silent tribute to the ones who came before us. The turkey, once a symbol of our tradition, now holds a deeper meaning, a connection to the past and a reminder of the love that continues to guide us. Sometimes, late at night, I still feel a gentle presence in the house, a whisper of laughter or the faint scent of Grandma's favorite pie. It's as if the spirits are watching over us, ensuring that the bonds of family remain strong and unbroken. The haunted turkey of Georgia may have been a frightening experience, but it ultimately strengthened our family's unity, turning a night of horror into a cherished memory of love and togetherness. As I reflect on that Christmas, I realize how fragile yet resilient family ties can be. The spirits may have been restless, but their visit brought us closer, reminding us of the importance of cherishing each other and maintaining the traditions that keep our family connected. The haunted turkey was not just a supernatural event. It was a catalyst for healing and reconnection, a testament to the enduring power of love and family. In the years since, our Christmas dinners have continued without incident, but the memory of that haunted night remains a poignant reminder of what truly matters. The turkey still roasts to perfection every year, a delicious centerpiece that brings us together. But now it also serves as a symbol of our family's strength and unity. And so, as the Georgia winter wraps our home in its chilly embrace, we gather once more around the table, hearts full and spirits lifted. The haunted turkey of Georgia is no longer a tale of fear, but a story of love that transcends the mortal realm, binding us together across time and space. It's a legacy we carry forward, ensuring that our family remains united, now and forever. Story number 7. The Haunting of Christmas Turkey. The winter air in New England was biting, wrapping our old family home in a blanket of snow that glittered under the pale December moon. Christmas was just around the corner, and our family tradition of roasting a turkey for dinner was in full swing. The scent of herbs and roasting meat filled the house, mingling with the sound of distant carols drifting through the crisp night. I've always cherished our Christmas traditions. Growing up, the warmth of family gatherings contrasted sharply with the cold outside, creating a sanctuary where laughter and love thrived. This year, however, there was an undercurrent of tension that even the festive decorations couldn't mask. My father, ever the meticulous planner, seemed more anxious than usual. My mother did her best to keep things normal, but I could sense her unease as well. Our home, a sprawling Victorian-era house inherited from generations past, held countless memories. Each room whispered stories of our ancestors, their lives etched into the very walls. As we prepared for the holiday, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was different this year, something lurking just beyond the edges of our festive veneer. The evening began as it always did. My siblings and I gathered in the kitchen, helping to set the table while my parents attended to the final preparations. The turkey, a majestic centerpiece, sat proudly in the oven, its skin turning a perfect golden brown. The anticipation of the meal brought a sense of normalcy, a comforting routine amidst the unsettling atmosphere. As we moved to the dining room, the first sign that something was amiss was subtle. The hallway light flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. I glanced at my father, who gave me a tight-lipped smile, dismissing the oddity. But then the temperature seemed to drop, a chill sweeping through the room that had no natural explanation. We settled around the table, the warmth of the fireplace a stark contrast to the cold that seemed to seep into our bones. Conversations flowed easily at first, stories from the past year, plans for the holidays, and the usual teasing that comes with family gatherings. But as we began to serve ourselves, the atmosphere shifted. It started with the doors. The front door, firmly closed moments before, swung open with a creak that echoed through the silent house. My father walked over to shut it, but it slammed shut again on its own, rattling the windows and causing the dishes to clink against each other. My mother tried to laugh it off, but her eyes betrayed her fear. Then the objects began to move. A silver candlestick rolled off the table, its clatter loud in the tense room. Plates and utensils danced in the air, settling back into place as if nothing had happened. My siblings exchanged nervous glances, their smiles fading as the strange occurrences continued. The turkey, once a symbol of our tradition, became the epicenter of the inexplicable events. As we attempted to eat, the bird seemed to come alive. It shifted on the platter, moving with a deliberate, almost sentient grace. My brother reached for a drumstick, but the turkey twisted away, causing his hand to brush against something cold and unseen. A sense of dread settled over us. My mother, a woman of quiet strength, began to speak of our family history. She recounted the story of my great-grandfather, a stern man who had passed away on Christmas Eve many years ago. According to family lore, he had died alone, estranged from the family he once held dear. Some believed his spirit never left, lingering in our home to watch over us, or perhaps to seek closure. As she spoke, the room seemed to grow colder still. My breath fogged in the air, and I could see my own anxiety reflected in the worried faces around the table. The turkey moved again, more violently this time, as if reacting to her words. My father attempted to remain calm, but his facade cracked when a loud bang echoed from the hallway, causing him to drop his fork in shock. The lights flickered more intensely, plunging us into brief moments of darkness before returning with a harsh brightness. In those shadows, I thought I saw a figure, blurred and indistinct, standing at the edge of the room. My heart pounded as I met the gaze of an empty chair across from us, as if an invisible presence had joined our dinner. Panic began to set in. My siblings whispered frantically, and my father tried to reach for the phone, only to have the cord coil itself away from his hand. The walls seemed to close in, the oppressive atmosphere making it hard to breathe. My mother clutched my arm, her voice trembling as she pleaded for whatever presence was with us to leave us in peace. Then, As suddenly as it had started, the disturbances ceased. The turkey returned to its stillness. The doors remained closed, and the room grew silent except for the crackling of the fire. We sat there, breathing heavily, the tension gradually ebbing away but leaving an indelible mark on our souls. In the aftermath, we gathered in the living room, the events of the night leaving us both shaken and introspective. My father broke the silence, his voice low and thoughtful. "Maybe it's time we honor him," he suggested, referring to my great-grandfather. The idea hung in the air, a bridge between our past and present. We decided to leave a place at the table, an empty seat in memory of him. As we did, a sense of peace seemed to settle over the house. The oppressive weight lifted, replaced by a warm, comforting presence that enveloped us. It was as if our gesture had bridged the gap between the living and the dead, offering reconciliation where there had once been estrangement. That night, as we sat together, sharing stories and laughter, the house felt complete once more. The haunting presence had not returned, but its memory lingered, a reminder of the fragile connections that bind us to our past and to each other. Christmas that year became a testament to forgiveness and the enduring strength of family bonds. Forever marked by the night our turkey came alive and our ancestor found his peace. In the years that followed, every Christmas felt a little warmer, a little more magical. We continued the tradition of leaving an empty seat, a silent tribute to the spirit that had touched our lives in such a profound way. The house, once filled with the tension of that eerie night, now resonated with the laughter and love that only family can bring. Sometimes, late at night, I can still feel that chill in the air, a gentle reminder of the presence that once dwelled among us. But now, it feels less like a haunting and more like a guardian watching over our celebrations. The turkey, a symbol of our tradition, remains a centerpiece, not just of our meals but of our memories, both joyous and haunting. As the years pass, I find myself reflecting on that Christmas with a mix of fear and gratitude. It taught me the importance of honoring our past, of seeking closure where there was once pain. It showed me that even in the darkest moments, there is room for understanding and healing. And most importantly, it reinforced the idea that family, both living and departed, remains an unbreakable bond, transcending time and space. Now, as I prepare to share this story, I realize how deeply it has shaped our family's traditions. Every Christmas, as we gather around the table, we do so with a sense of reverence and connection that goes beyond the physical realm. We honor those who came before us, acknowledging their presence in our lives and the legacy they left behind. The haunting of the Christmas turkey became a pivotal moment in our family history, a story we pass down with a mix of awe and respect. It serves as a reminder that our actions have the power to bridge worlds, to bring peace where there was once turmoil. And as long as we remember and honor our ancestors, their spirits remain a part of our lives, guiding us and watching over us in ways both seen and unseen. In the end, that Christmas was more than just a night of horror. It was a testament to the enduring power of family, love, and the unseen ties that bind us all. It showed us that even in the face of the unknown, we can find strength and solace in each other, creating memories that last a lifetime and beyond. So, as the snow continues to fall outside our home, blanketing the world in quiet beauty, we sit together, hearts full, grateful for the bonds that hold us together. And somewhere, perhaps, my great-grandfather smiles, content that his legacy lives on, not just in our traditions, but in the very essence of who we are as a family.